When I joined Aviatra, and I started hearing about all these stats about funding for women-owned businesses and how problematic that is, and just knowing, like, now I have this opportunity to help people not give up on their dreams like I did. I mean, it wasn't even that I gave up. I literally never tried.
Yeah.
And so, sharing this idea, you don't have to be like me. You can go after your dreams and make it happen.
But that's such a bummer, though, to have it so ready and then... Welcome to the Cincinnati Business Podcast, where we elevate the voices of business owners, nonprofits, and subject matter experts across the greater Cincinnati area. And brought to you by the Cincinnati Podcast Studio. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Cincinnati Business Podcast. I've got a actually really interesting guest today. I'm excited about this one because in the world of business, there are these things called accelerators. And I don't know if you've heard of them before. You probably have because there's a lot of them here around Cincinnati. But with me today, we got Jill Morenz, the president of Aviatra Accelerators. I'm so excited to have you here. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks. I'm thrilled to have this conversation with you.
Oh, I can't wait. This is going to be fun because I've got lots of questions about this world.
Great.
But the first thing that I think is important for our audience to understand is just tell us a little bit about Aviatra, what you guys do, and who you help.
Yeah, so we are a nonprofit, and we serve the Northern Kentucky, Cincinnati, and Greater Dayton areas. And we're celebrating our 15-year anniversary this
congrats.
year. Very exciting.
Nice.
And we help women start their businesses, grow their businesses, and fund their businesses.
Well, that's easy. Nice. 3 steps. I love it. Yeah. It sounds easy, but that sounds like a lot of work, though.
Sure, for the entrepreneurs, for sure.
It sure is. Well, that's super cool. So we're going to dig into that. And I've got a bunch of questions about how the process works, what it looks like for someone to get involved with you, that sort of thing. But tell me a little bit more about you. Where did you come from? What brought you to the space that you are now president? Because from my understanding, you didn't start Aviatra.
Right. I've been with Aviatra since like late in the year of 2022.
Okay. So this is brand new, fresh for you in a way. Okay.
Pretty much.
So what brought you to that point? What was your career like before that?
So my degree is in interior design, actually. And I had an interior design business for a long time. I did it full time for a few years and then transitioned it to a side hustle for about 15. Okay. And then I was working in the nonprofit space here in Northern Kentucky. And we moved here in 2009. And I had been at my current job my then current job for about 5 years. Yeah. And this position came open, and I thought I had another company after my interior design company as well. And so I thought, oh my gosh, the perfect alignment, entrepreneurial experience, nonprofit experience, public speaking experience, like, that's great. Please board, please understand that this is a good fit. And then they did. And so,
fun.
It was great. Yeah.
Man, yeah. So tell me, I'm curious, you said you had your side business of interior design, 15 years that you did that. Yeah. What was that kind of like for you? Because obviously now you coach people through those beginning moments. Yeah. And for you had to do the same thing. Start from the bottom, gain your clients. And then you guys move in 2009, which is a big deal for someone like that. You built your book of business. So tell me a little bit, what was that process like for you starting your own company?
Well, I had a lot of encouragement from my then husband, which was wonderful. And it was really exciting. It was really fun to be able to do what I love to do and help people we lived in Illinois at the time, and help people in our community. And my passion and my mission sort of at the time was to just share this idea that good design is available to everybody, not just the super wealthy. And so I've worked with a wide range of clients, and it was really fun. I always had this dream of opening a store. So I was really, I was dialed into this dream. I had this big folder of all these like paint samples and fabric samples and notes and things I tore out of magazines for inspiration. I mean, it's like a thick folder like this.
Oh man!
And I knew that this would not happen without outside funding. And I knew I couldn't fund it. I mean, just coming up with the first month's rent, last month's rent for a retail space was going to be hard, let alone all the inventory, and it was going to be beautiful inventory. So of course, it was not going to be cheap.
No, it was not.
So I knew I needed outside funding, but I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know, how to get a loan. What did you have to do to qualify? Nothing. But here's the really sad part of the story is I never educated myself on this. So my store remains in that folder in my filing cabinet.
What?
I never opened it. I know. So then when I joined Aviatra,
Yeah.
and I started hearing about all these stats about funding for women-owned businesses and how problematic that is, and just knowing like now I have this opportunity to help people not give up on their dreams like I did. I mean, it wasn't even that I gave up. I literally never tried.
Yeah.
And so sharing this idea, you don't have to be like me. You can go after your dreams and make it happen.
But that's such a bummer though, to have it like so ready and then, but that's true. That is a thing that is so common. The dream that just people never go after.
Right. And for me, it was, just fear, but not really based in reality. Like we perhaps could have done it somehow, right? But I didn't even try. So I want to save other women from, dreaming so small, keeping their dreams small.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now, do you ever see that coming back in the future? Like, do you think you could ever create your store eventually, or?
Well, that would be really fun.
Yeah.
That's true. I have perhaps a more jaundiced eye of retail now because
retail's really hard.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard.
It is.
Yeah. I think I've just kind of, while I still love interior design, I had just like a couple of clients I still do a few things for. I think I've moved kind of mentally on. The project management piece was getting a lot. And you mentioned the move, like you said, I had this book of business and back in Illinois, we moved here. And it's not only about, with interior design, particularly, it's not only about attracting the clients, it's you have to have, the wallpaper people and the painters and the carpenters and the flooring people. And, so it's...
and it's a reputation thing.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, yeah.
Plus the marketing. Oh my gosh, when I first started my business 20 years ago, the interior design business, this is my marketing strategy.
Okay.
I put a little ad in the yellow pages.
Yes.
And that was all I had to do. I got all kinds of business from it, from the ad in the yellow pages. So obviously that would no longer work.
No,
so,
not at all.
So that's part of it is, I guess now I have a lot more ideas for marketing, but it was so easy back then.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Interesting.
Yeah.
So then I'm curious, did the crash of 2008, was that kind of a big reason why you moved to Cincinnati originally?
That's not why I moved, but I certainly it affected me because I thought, well, I'm not really going to be able to start the business again and be, make enough money to live on when I first moved here. So I thought, I'll just get a job. Well, that was a hard time to just get a job. So I worked a bunch of different jobs and finally ended up in this nonprofit space in Northern Kentucky and I loved it. So
your job was what brought you to Cincinnati from Illinois?
No, actually, my ex-husband, wanted to go to law school and he got into Chase. So
okay, interesting, cool. Well, so you come to Kentucky, where Josh and I are both from. We love Kentucky. We claim it as our home. We did not start there as well.
I mean,
but
it's room for us to claim it.
Yeah, well, we love Kentucky. I always joke though that I'm sad I moved to Ohio because I have to wear shoes now. That's the bummer. But I grew up in the hills of Kentucky, so I could run around all day. And anyway, never mind. I'm not going to go into that. But so then you're here in Kentucky, you're in the nonprofit space. What was the nonprofit you were working with at the time?
So it was called Skyward. And it was kind of the crafters and executors of the Northern Kentucky's vision for itself.
Oh.
So it was called MyNKY. It was originally called Vision 2015.
Okay.
Then in 2015, we rebranded because
of course.
So that's when we became Skyward, and we had a new vision, and that was drawn from co-created by leaders and community members and all kinds of people. And then we helped sort of lead that and execute the priorities that the community had come up with.
Cool.
But then my boss retired and they changed the organization. Now it's the One NKY Alliance, which is an amazing organization.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
Yeah. And then I moved to the Catalytic Fund, and I did, which also serves Northern Kentucky, and then now Aviatra. So,
wow. Yeah. Okay. What a journey. Okay. So now you're at Aviatra, and your guys' mission is to help women succeed in business.
Yes.
And I love how kind of even though you didn't start it, some of your story was this like, I needed help and I didn't get this.
Oh yeah, very much so.
So tell me give me the overview of kind of what you guys offer at Aviatra and what you guys are doing right now.
Yeah, so we offer classes. So broadly speaking, classes, coaching, and community.
Mm-hmm.
So classes, we have free and paid classes. All of our services are either free or affordable, and that's part of being a nonprofit. You know, we fundraise so that that's possible.
Yeah.
So we have free workshops that help you come up with an idea and start a side hustle, all the way to our, really in-depth Momentum Accelerators, our flagship course. We have one called Capital Ready Women. We have another one that's enrolling now called Fuel Your Startup Income Accelerator. So we have classes to help women either get started or grow and fund. So that's kind of that trajectory.
Which you kind of have like a 3I kind of thing that is connected to what you do, right? What are those?
Yep. So it's ideation. So that's, again, coming up with the idea.
Yep.
And then in inspiration, you can do this, right? Like you can do this. And then instruction to help you actually learn how to do that.
Okay, interesting. So who is like obviously the genre of what you do is working with women.
Yes.
But who is like a perfect fit for somebody who is going to be coming into your program?
Yeah. So I think women who there's, as you mentioned at the beginning, there's a number of accelerators in our region, and a lot of them are really focused on tech and high growth potential businesses because the accelerators themselves are backed by venture capitalists. And so they have money that they want to invest in high growth businesses.
Yeah.
So that whole venture capital, like the pre-seed funding round and the seed and the Series A and all that, I don't really know very much about that. And so that's really not where we focus. Certainly we could help a woman with a tech business, but not in that way.
Yeah.
And so most of the women that we work with have services, like offer services, let's say marketing, branding, styling, personal styling, name it, right? We have a woman who runs a neurodiversity coaching program. And so just name it again.
Yeah.
And then, so services, retail and product-based businesses, and then food and beverage and health and wellness. Those are kind of the broad categories.
Interesting. Okay. Awesome. Now, if someone doesn't fall inside of those categories, are they still a good fit?
Well, it depends on what they want to do. Yeah. I mean, I feel like those are a lot of the categories. I mean, there's manufacturing.
It is a lot of them. Yeah. There is manufacturing, but also like while they may fall in some of those categories, I often think that women who are mothers often find themselves in kind of the side business category.
Yes. Oh.
So
this workshop that I teach, Side Hustle Without the Hustle, is what it's called.
Oh, that's fun.
And so it's the how to fit a side hustle into your busy life and the 6 steps to set it up for success. And so I love side hustles. I really encourage people to start that way. I always sort of think of it as, if you plant a little seed and then you put it in this little pot and then you yell at it, grow! Like that puts a lot of pressure on that little seed, but if you put it in the pot and you water it and you give it nutrients and you give it sunshine and you play beautiful music, right? You help nurture it and let it grow a little bit more gradually and just naturally.
Yeah. It'll
be a much healthier plant. So the analogy obviously is if you put all the pressure on your business because you're going 100% full-time from the outset, it's a lot of pressure on your business to generate that revenue that you need to live.
Yeah.
Let alone the business expenses. I mean, it's going to pay for your mortgage and your groceries and all of that, right?
Yes.
And so if you can start it as a side hustle, you can kind of let it grow a little bit more slowly and naturally, and then it ends up, generally speaking, becoming a stronger business. And then if you want to transition away from your job and make it make your business your full-time job, it's again a lot. You've learned a lot already. You've learned kind of what the market wants, what you like to do. How the pricing of your product works, whether it's working well or not. All of that, you've worked that way. And so it really, starting with the side hustle is a great idea if you can.
Yes, I have always wished that when I started my businesses that I had started that way. But I'm the classic, I started a business because I was laid off.
Oh,
and so I was like, hey, here's the pressure. But it is true.
Sometimes it drives you to succeed.
Sometimes it does. But it's also one of those things where if you can give yourself enough runway.
Yeah. Yes.
Because I was talking, our first episode that we did was with Jim Diebold. And he was he's a business coach, and he was talking about basically anyone can succeed in business if they just last long enough.
But the key to that is pivoting and and reacting to the market and being resilient yourself.
Yeah, which I was like, that is a hopeful message, but it sounds very simplistic if you think about it in just that one way.
Yeah.
So I'm curious then, like, as you guys look at what you do, one of the things that you talked about, at least I listened to a podcast you did with someone else in the area, and they were talking about how, I think you were mentioning something about there's specifically issues with women getting capital for businesses. Because I was trying to remember the stat that you quoted, but it was something about like 30% of businesses are owned by women, but only 5% actually can get access to capital. Is that correct?
Yes, that was in 2022. So out of all the small business loans that were given across the entire country in 2022, only 5% were given to women-owned businesses, even though at the time they owned 30% of the businesses. And now it's almost 40% of the businesses are owned by women in America.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So there is, at least, I don't know if it's in Ohio or if it's a national credential, this women-owned business certification. Is that something that's actually valuable for women business owners to have?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
How come?
Well, now, without getting into politics, the landscape is changing.
Yeah.
So up until, we just don't know what's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
But up until December of 2024, having either women, it's called WBE, so it's women-owned business enterprise.
Okay.
Or MBE, which is minority owned, and VBE, which is veteran owned. So all those little certifications. So you have to be in business for a year. There's some, some red tape that you have to go through just to prove that you really are, the owners. You meet the qualifications.
Yeah.
But the primary reason that it matters is because it gives you access to government contracts, because. Again, up until December of 2024, there were mandates. So if a government agency had a budget for and it doesn't have to be big things like construction and stuff. It could be things like food service. So they have a budget for food service. There's a mandate that if possible, they had to spend a certain percentage on women-owned, minority-owned, or veteran-owned.
Yeah,
and so if you were certified in there, you leapt ahead of anybody else until they met that mandate.
Yeah.
And in addition to government contracts, there's a lot of businesses all across the country, but even here in our area that have maybe not mandates, but they have goals. So a lot of the hospitals had goals. A lot of the construction companies have goals that the vendors that they use are one of those, types of businesses. And so it really does help you if there's, and I mean, this could be even people who, do like fitness coaching or yoga, or it could be anything, like things that you wouldn't expect. Because when a company, let's say like P&G, brings somebody in to do like a retreat for their executives, well, they've got somebody who's providing the food, they've got somebody who's leading the exercises, and whether it's like a mental exercise or an actual physical exercise, right? And so all of those people could be certified in some way. So it does really help.
So people can
At least
hit
it
their
did really
targets
help.
that way.
Yeah, they hit their targets.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
I don't think those initiatives are completely going away. I think for the moment the government side may be different, but I don't think the business side is really changing all that much.
Yeah, I agree.
So then I'm kind of curious about the landscape, because you know the data, I don't. What is kind of the landscape for women-owned businesses as it stands right now? Because as you were saying, I was quoting numbers from 2022. Yeah. Like, what do things look like right now in the world with this?
So women are starting businesses at a rate of like more than 1,000 a day. I know.
Whoa.
So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's really exciting. Now, a lot of them, much like when you were laid off, a lot of them, that trend really took off during COVID. We all know that a lot of the businesses, or a lot of the jobs that were affected, were service industry jobs, and which are a large percentage of women held those jobs. And so I think at that time, regardless of whether they lost their job or whatever, people realized, even it was really brought to the forefront, I cannot count on an employer to put all of my financial security eggs in one employer's basket. I can't do that. And so they started businesses to just try to take control of their financial destiny in some way. Even if it wasn't like starting a business to be a full-time, but just a side hustle, even doing something like, certainly driving for Uber or something like that would be considered technically a side hustle. I sort of think of that as a second job.
Yeah.
I define a side hustle more something that you start based on your skills and knowledge and interests and all of that. But either way, you're kind of spreading the risk around a little bit, right? And when you've got a free evening, you're doing something to help yourself financially instead of relying entirely on an employer. So I think that trend has really improved, really continued. And also the ability to work remotely and all of that gives opened up a lot of doors and potential for women to, start businesses that they might not have been able to even, 5 years ago.
That's awesome. Now, have you seen a good trend in the numbers like that have been released? Like, I don't know if those studies are done every year or anything.
They are,
like
but
that.
There's a lag.
There's a lag, of course. Yeah. Are you seeing progress though in those numbers?
Yeah, and I think that while that's wonderful to see a lot of numbers of women starting businesses, let's also part of Aviatra's mission is how can we help them be successful?
Yeah,
it's easy to start a business.
Yes. But, very easy to start a business.
All too easy.
Yes. Not very easy to follow through on it.
Yeah. And so, even just the stats of how many of these businesses are in business still after a year. I don't know that stat, but that's an important one.
Yeah.
And then, after 5 years and a lot of times people start businesses also just to get themselves through, a life stage. So like you said, a lot of moms they call mompreneurs, right? So that a lot of moms start their businesses to be able to have something to do while they're taking care of their kids and, manage that, bring in some money. And then maybe when their kids go to school, they don't need to do that any longer, and now they get a day job. So
that makes sense.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that you fail. Just because you closed your job or you closed your business doesn't mean you failed.
No,
it just means that maybe you were ready to move on to something else.
Yeah, that's totally true. So tell me a little bit about the programs that you guys are currently doing. So you are, the one I know you wanted to talk about today was Capital Ready Women. So tell me a little bit about that. What's going on in that space? Yeah,
so that really is the whole idea behind Capital Ready Women started with that stat of, the 2022, only 5% of women-owned businesses got funding. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Part of it is we're not asking.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it. Just like me, right? I had one back when I was trying to open, or not even trying, open, dreaming of opening my store. And I didn't even try. I didn't even ask. And so Capital Ready Women was designed, it's a 3-level program. There's a free level and then 2 paid levels. And it's designed to help women get ready to successfully get a loan or an investor, and not venture investor, more like somebody who, is just investing in your business and wants to help you grow. And so not just get ready, like get your financial documents in order and make sure that you're profitable and that your, business plan is dialed in.
Yeah.
It's more, it's an addition to that. It's like, how can I be a successful business owner poised to grow? And how can I mitigate somehow that fear of like this super formal appointment where you've got your little portfolio on your lap and you're like, oh my gosh, please don't ask me about my numbers from 3 years ago. I can't remember in this moment, right?
Yeah.
It's so the highest level of Capital Ready Women includes. So, it's a 12-week program, that level. We work with you really, really closely to develop your financial documents and your funding packet and all of that stuff that you need, work on with you to develop your narrative, on and on. But the big thing is that by the time the program is, winding down, I know your business really well. And so I know the funders that you should meet. And so I get on Zoom with you and the funder, and we just have like a really calm, friendly conversation. And we do this 3 times so that we get you the best chance of a good match between the funder and yourself. And so
it's smart.
Yeah, it's great. And people are just the curation of the people that I'm bringing to the table is really helpful. I have heard so many stories when I was developing this program from women who have tried to get funding and they're, talking to this lender, and that lender might not even lend on that type of business, but they don't know that, right? You go in and you say, can I have some business and can I have some money for my business? And so in addition to hearing all these stories of, being ghosted and, running around back and forth, these long processes. I also assembled this group of funders that I call my capital advisory group. And I had some like really interesting, frank conversations with them where they wouldn't talk like this out to the average person.
Yeah.
But one of the things that somebody said was, when somebody comes in who's not a client of our bank and says, "Can I have a business loan?" We're like, "Who even are you?" And I thought, well, but like I would have done that.
Yeah.
You need a business loan, you go to a bank. Hello. Yeah. But from the bank's perspective, it's like, no, we need to know you. We need to know who you are. Part of their assessment is your character, and which is largely based on your credit score, but also like how, So just things like that we don't know. The average person has no idea. And so going through a program like Capital Ready Women really helps you kind of circumvent a lot of that stuff.
Yeah. Now, do you like, when you know the type of business that they are, do you like suggest, hey, you should be banking at this location as you start this business, so they start to get to know you and stuff like that?
Yeah. I mean, that's a little more organic. Like if you were just going to come in by yourself, but because I'm making the introductions, the people
leg up.
Yeah, leg up.
Yeah,
it is
I love
leg
it.
up.
That's great. Okay. So this is a brand new program, though. You guys just started this.
We did.
Like, how long ago did you start this?
We launched in October.
Love it.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
So you said, if I remember correctly, you said it's a 12-week.
So there's the
process.
3 levels. So the way it goes is you have to first take this, what we call our free fundability assessment. So this is an assessment. And in fact, I can confidently say that it's the only one in the US that is free. And it's not affiliated with a government agency or a funding agency or a funding like organization. So there's fundability assessments from venture capitalist firms and from banks, but of course they're going to want you to use their money. 100%. And so, and that's fine, but it's not as, what we're hoping is that people will see us as very trustworthy because we're not trying to plug you into some specific route of funding. So they take this free fundability assessment at freefundabilityassessment.com.
Oh,
and,
nice.
And so you take this little start here quiz, and it's a 9-question quiz that helps figure out whether you're a better fit for getting an investor or getting a loan. And then you take the longer assessment, and then your score shows kind of how funder ready you are.
Josh, you should be taking this right now if you're not. Yeah, he is. Look at that.
Okay.
He's doing it.
Love it. And then depending on your score, then you're sort of invited into the level of Capital Ready Women that would fit. So the free level, they're called pre-flight, runway, and liftoff. So we're really leaning into the aviation sort of.
I love it. Of course. Why not?
Of course. So pre-flight is free, and it's for people who really don't yet have even a business plan, or maybe they're just new starting their business.
Yeah.
And then runway is for people who are not yet profitable. But so we help them, we work with them one-on-one coaching with me to develop their path to profitability action plan. And, we develop their narrative, we get their financials in shape. And then that's an 8-week program.
Okay.
And then the liftoff is the 12-week program that results in you being ready to talk to the funders. And so the reason we do the assessment first is because if you really are on the early stage, you're not ready to talk to funders. So let's not even go there. Like, let's not even set up that expectation because it's going to be a no.
Yeah.
And who wants that? Right?
No, exactly.
So,
So you started in October, so that means you've had enough time for people to get through so far, right?
Yes. Well, so far nobody has qualified for the liftoff yet. That's taken
way.
it, but that's on me because I really haven't been talking about it enough yet.
Okay.
So
well, that's
thank
why
you
you're
for this
here
opportunity.
Today.
That's right.
I love it.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's super cool. So I think that is a unique thing that exists, that you exist, because I think one of the things that I had to do when I was first starting my first company, is I had to develop all the relationships myself.
Yeah.
So I was building all these networks, trying to connect with all these people I could. And it took me a little over a year to feel like I had good connections. And what it sounds like is you're circumventing that process. You're making sure that they are more ready with their business than they are with connections, and you will help with the connections later.
Yes, that's exactly right.
That's amazing. Yeah. I honestly think that is super valuable. If you guys are listening to this, come on, like you need to talk with her. This is incredible. Okay.
Thank you.
So one of the hardest parts about podcasting is the moment you stop talking. I mean, think about it. The majority of the work that you probably put into creating a podcast is in the editing phase. So what if you didn't have to do the editing phase? Here at the Cincinnati Podcast Studio, we help you just come in and talk. We do all the rest. We have the cameras, we have the microphones, we have the lights, and then we have the editing tools to create the perfect content out of your podcast. Not only do you get the full podcast in video and audio, you also get short form content that you can use across all of your pages in social media. So if you want to learn more, go to CincinnatiPodcastStudio.com/tour to learn more and schedule your tour with us today. So then
Aviatra.org is our website. So, all our programs are on there. And
that's so good. Okay.
And in addition to the programs, to the classes, we offer coaching and a membership community as well.
Tell me about those.
Okay. Yeah. So the coaching I offer to anybody, men and women. So my free stuff can be for men and women. My paid stuff has to be for women because that's the mission of our organization.
Yes, of course.
But I offer a free coaching session with me. It's usually for people who are either thinking about starting a business or have just started, maybe a few years in.
Yeah.
Like once they get past a certain point, my expertise ends.
Yeah.
And then we bring in some other people.
That makes sense.
Like Jim. But and so that's where we start. And so I provide as much value, give feedback, ideas, and all of that. And then I recommend some, if there's a program that we have that they would be a good fit for, or perhaps there's other resources I can connect them to.
Cool.
And then there's paid coaching if they want to take that to the next level. And then our community. So we have, in 2024 was the first time we ever had a membership community. So that's been amazing. And that's there's really three benefits of our membership. The first, and it's $35 a month or $300 a year. So it's very affordable.
Yeah.
The first is accountability, because as you well know, when you own your own business, you don't have a boss standing over you and saying, hey, did you do that thing? Like there's literally nobody checking in on you.
No.
So we have an accountability call every Monday, just checking in, how you doing? We have a running Google sheet that tracks what you said you were going to do last week. It's judgment free, but it's just that gentle check in, and maybe some people on the call will give you an idea or a resource that you need. And
it helps to say like, oh, I don't want to not say that I did my thing.
Yes.
Next
week. Right.
Yes.
Absolutely. It's just a little bit of motivation because you're reporting in.
Yes.
And many people, not I, but many people are very just self-motivated. Well, I'm self-motivated, but not in that same way. Like I'll still push stuff off.
Yeah.
But so the people who want the accountability can have it. And then we offer support. And so we have a mastermind that is open to anybody, actually, any woman. It's called Real Talk. And we do that in person once a month and online once a month. And it's free for the first one. But then after that, it's $25. And then with the membership, it's free.
Okay.
So, or included, I guess. And so that's
if
really
you're wanting
fun.
to go to those, it's $25 and it's only $35 a month. Like,
I know.
Makes sense.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was
tiered
thinking.
that well. Well
I
done.
did. Thank you very much.
That's very good.
So Real Talk is great. We do like a little bit of just getting to know each other. Then we have usually some kind of not a speaker exactly, but some kind of a professional to lead a discussion on something to do with mindset. And then we do a little mastermind setting with whoever's there. So it's always a shifting group of people, and somebody will be on the sweet seat, we call it, and she'll share like an idea or a challenge she's having, and everybody else just kind of gives their ideas and their feedback and their support. And so that's really powerful. And then the third benefit of membership is just savings on our programs and events.
Awesome.
And then we have this new level of membership, which is the incubator. So the Aviatra Incubator opened up just in November of 2024. And we expanded to the space next door. So it offered, I really think of the incubator as like a stepping stone between a woman working at her dining room table or in her second bedroom or whatever, and meeting people at coffee shops. And then the other end of it is, maybe a $900 a month office somewhere.
Yeah.
And so we're that middle ground. So we have below market rate office rents, short term, like 6 months, and then co-working and that's the co-working membership.
Cool.
Yep, and that's $100 a month. And then the co-working members and the tenants, we wrap all these services around them, so they're also included in our membership, in the benefits of the membership, the accountability, and the mastermind. And then we also do one-on-one coaching to help them develop that path to profitability action plan, and we check in with them.
Cool.
And so the whole idea, as the name would indicate, is we want to incubate them, and then they are ready to go into market rate.
Wow. I'm blown away. You're talking about all these programs that you have just started, and you only just started there in 2022.
Yeah.
So my goodness, you have been hitting the ground running.
Thanks.
That's incredible. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And in some ways, I'm bummed I can't take part of your
I know,
services.
I am too. So, yeah.
It's sad, but man, this is incredible. So I'm curious, when you're doing all this, obviously you guys are in this space of growing right now and expanding to new products, and like you said, Capital Ready Women haven't had anyone actually finish that program yet because it is so new. Yeah, the high level part of it. So how does that feel for you? Because you are still in a way an entrepreneur, because you're building all these sort of things.
It's very insightful.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
It is?
Yes.
Why do you say that?
Well, because my board is amazing and they really let me lead the organization. They just really helped me with the financial piece of it and guidance.
Yeah.
100%. But they really let me lead the direction and create the programming. And so I'm really able to do what an entrepreneur does, which is look at the landscape in the market, what's missing, how can we help, how can we plug in, and then create those things. And then it's also on me and my tiny little small but mighty team of 2 people to, fill the programs and execute them, and then, share the results. And so it's very much feels like entrepreneurship.
It sure seems like it. Yeah. But how does it feel for you to have started these programs, but yet, like you said, no one's completed the high level yet? And it's been
we have had
5 months or so. How does that feel for you?
Oh, it's fine. I mean, I know that it's all about visibility.
Yeah.
That's all it is, right? Any entrepreneur, you make a thing or you hang up your shingle and then you're like, hello. Yeah. So it's on me to get out and promote them. Like our flagship program is called Momentum Accelerator. We've been doing that for 15 years.
Okay.
That one is no problem filling that program, right? Like people know about it. And we do a big, celebration at the end. It's called Flight Night.
Yeah.
A couple hundred people, right, cheering these new entrepreneurs on. It's really, really amazing. So that's no problem. That's filling. We have this Fuel Your Startup program, the Income Accelerator, that we do twice a year, and that's been great. We have an initial program called From Daydream to Launch, just to, as you might guess, it's to get you from taking that business idea to actually, making it a real business. We have no problem with that. So it's not really about. I'm not concerned that we don't have people in it, because I know it's just, and we have people in the lower tiers. It's part of it. I mean, I'm gatekeeping in that they have to get a certain score on the assessment. So if I'm not talking to the people who could get that high of a score, then again, that's kind of on me. It's again, the entrepreneurial thing. Like if you're not making sales, it's not necessarily that your product is bad. It's that you're not talking to the right people.
Yeah.
And so I think
it's actually really an interesting insight for people in business, because Josh and I have been talking about this recently. We've been recognizing that people in our industry, in the film and video production industry, love to just generalize and do everything. And
because you can't.
Because we can.
You actually can.
We can. Mm-hmm. But the thing is that I'm finding the most success in most of the organizations that exist in Cincinnati is found when they niche. Not just an industry, but also the type of product that they do and that sort of thing. And so I think there's actually power to what you're talking about of you're being really picky about who you involve in this because you want them to succeed. Yeah. And also you want these connections to actually bear fruit that you're going to make with people. Yeah. I think that's really interesting to look at that, because when you're looking at new business owners, are you seeing what I know I suffered from of I have so many options of what I can do. I don't know how to focus. Is that a common thing you're seeing all the time? Yeah,
because a lot of entrepreneurs, I would probably say most entrepreneurs have, 100 ideas a minute.
Yeah.
Right. And it's so exciting. And they call it the shiny object syndrome or whatever, but it's real.
Yeah.
And especially perhaps once you niche down, like you start and you're like, I could do anything. And then you niche down and then you're like, and I can do anything with this niche. I got a million ideas for this niche. And so one of the things we talk about with Side Hustle Without the Hustle is focus. If you only have a limited, like let's say you're working on your business, your side hustle for like 5 hours a week, you cannot afford to do that. You will get nowhere if you're trying to chase every single idea that you have. And so the focus is the key. I usually counsel people to find some strategy to capture their ideas so they don't lose them, because they're usually really good ideas. You just cannot afford to get distracted. My strategy personally is I have a whole wall of clipboards in my home office, and each clipboard is a different idea or like category of ideas. And, so I have like little Post-its and things I tear out from magazines and all of that stuff on all these clipboards. So that's perhaps a little extreme, but many people could just use a notebook.
I love it. It sounds like a really good backdrop for your like podcast or something. Like if you ever create one, that would be great. Oh my gosh, that's funny. Huh. So then what are you seeing is the biggest mistake women like make when they are starting a business? Like what are you seeing as the biggest flaw that happens?
Honestly, I think it's not reaching out for help. We get, and I think women, generally speaking, are perhaps societally at an advantage because, we're traditionally the ones that get out and ask for directions. We're the ones that are, we have less shame, I think, than men. Again, broad generalization, but about
when
saying, I don't know this.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do this. I need help.
Yeah.
And so we are at advantage, but I think a lot of women, sure, when you start your business, you don't even know, if you've never thought to look at how much entrepreneurial support there is in our region, you wouldn't know. There's so much. So much. And so thinking that you have to reinvent the wheel, you have to do it all yourself, you have to come up with all the ideas, you have to, talk yourself out of the slumps and celebrate the highs alone. And, it's just not, you don't have to. Like that's my big message. My whole thing is you can do this and you don't have to do it alone. There's so much to that. In fact, so I was talking to a woman who's a member now, but before she became a member of Aviatra, she's a grant writer and she works from home. And at the end of the day, her partner would come home and he would say, like, how was your day? And she's like, well, I have this one client that hasn't paid and I'm trying to decide whether I should send him to collections. And then also I have this one, writer employee who wants more hours. I'm trying to decide, can I afford to give her more hours? And, what do you think? And he's like, I have nothing to offer. I have he's not an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So he would say, like, I love you and I know you're going to make the right decision, babe, but I don't have anything to say.
Yeah.
And so when she became aware of these groups that are out there, like Aviatra and others, she just felt so relieved and empowered at the same time. Like, oh, I have some place to turn to of other people who actually have an opinion that's potentially helpful. She appreciated his support, but didn't help move her business forward. And so, somebody else to talk to who has perhaps sent customers to collections. What was that like? How did that result? So all these questions that we have, and again, nobody can celebrate. I know you know this. Nobody can celebrate your wins like another entrepreneur because they know what went into it.
Yeah.
And pull you out of the slumps also, because they know, hey, this is, it's going to rise again.
Yeah.
Like they know the roller coaster and it will go up again, and it's to help you.
Yeah.
So I think that not asking for help, not realizing that there's help, and then once you realize it, not asking, that's the biggest, I think, potential for lack of success.
So do you have a favorite success story of someone that came through?
Yes.
Okay, what is it?
This is amazing. So there's a woman named Robin, and she was, her dad had a really bad accident and he had a traumatic brain injury. And there were long periods of his infirmity where he had to take liquid food. So like on a feeding tube, right? So he was developing all these weird, like ancillary medical conditions that were usually caused by too much sugar. Like he got thrush, which is like an infection that babies get a lot of times. Weird things. And there was just more things for the doctors to worry about and treat. And so Robin was sitting in his room one day, and she picked up the little thing idly, the little container that has the liquid food in it. And she looks at the back of it, and the primary ingredient is corn syrup. Oh. And then she turned it over and realized that the manufacturer was Hershey.
Oh my gosh.
So she was like, gosh, I think I get the connection now between these weird illnesses. And so she made it her mission. It took her 8 years. She worked with chemists and biologists and all that to create this very nutritious liquid food, very low sugar, that was an alternative to this, Hershey's product.
Yeah.
And no doctor would prescribe it because the protocol was
Hershey's.
The Hershey's thing. And so she was stymied. She's like, but this is amazing. Like, she gave it to her dad, and her dad thrived. I mean, he ultimately passed, but compared
to where he was.
Yeah, turned around dramatically. And so she said, well, I'm just going to get the word out about this thing, which she called Liquid Hope. And so she started selling it herself. And so many people wrote in. She has this whole wall of hope, she calls it, and of postcards and photos they sent. So many people, like a groundswell of family members that had used Liquid Hope for their loved ones, wrote in, so much so that they actually changed the protocol of this. So now there's a doctor can prescribe the Hershey's thing, or they can prescribe her product.
Wow. So her business must be thriving.
Well, she ended up selling it for a lot of money.
Awesome.
And now what she's doing is so cool, is she's taking on the challenge of MREs, which are meals ready to eat for the military.
Yeah.
Historically disgusting.
They're horrible.
And, yeah.
Yeah. There's always the ones they say that you got to avoid.
Right. The spam or whatever. Yeah. And so she's taking that on to make it delicious and, still,
that's so good.
criteria that is required for a meal that's ready to eat. So yeah, she's amazing. But that whole thing about not just creating the product, but actually changing the national protocol so that people could access this product and have it be paid for by their insurance.
Incredible.
Huge. Yeah. How many lives did she change?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Now, was she involved with Aviatra?
Yes.
What did she do? What did she do with you guys to get to that point?
So, a lot of most of the women that come through our programs started their business to do the thing that they're good at. So whether it's their passion, their skills, their knowledge, whatever it is, they started their business to do that. And they don't have business degrees. They don't know the business fundamentals that they will ultimately need. Like, you can go for a little while on grit and trying, your savings account and just trying hard. But at some point you're going to need to know, okay, what does a financial statement look like? What am I looking for? What do I care about? What numbers are important? And then, the marketing piece, the sales training, all of that. Like, at some point, getting your pricing right, you're going to need all of that. Mm-hmm. And so coming through programs like ours, that's what that provides. And so same with Robin, she had this business, but she did not have a background in business. And so part of a lot of what she got out of it was the understanding of just the business fundamentals. And then there's a growth segment to our Momentum Accelerator. That's what she was in. And then the growth is like, okay, what's next for you eventually? Like, if you start, if you know what your goal is, how big you want to go, or do you want to sell your business, or what is it? Do you want to franchise? What is that goal? What can you be doing now to help you get there? And so that's a big part of what all the people that go through our programs learn. And then just the networking, the connections that come from it, the press that comes with that program. So
I love it.
Yeah.
So this is the Cincinnati Business Podcast.
Yes.
I'm curious, like, what do you see the landscape of business in Cincinnati looking like? Like, because obviously economically, things are a little bit uncertain right now.
Yeah.
But how do you see the future of business if someone's like looking to maybe start their own business right now in Cincinnati?
I would say do it, but do it smart.
Yeah.
There's come to my side hustle workshop. It's free.
Perfect.
Even if you're not going to start as a side hustle, it's sidehustlewithoutthehustle.com, if I can throw that in there.
You've been getting great domain names. I love it. It's so good.
I'm grabbing them as soon as I come over them. So it's because we talk about just sort of the things that you have to think about. Step one, what problem are you going to solve? What problem are you solving if you've already started a business? And, problems can be big, really big, like the problem Robin solved. It can be medium-sized problems. We have an alum named Courtney who actually worked for us also. And she, when her kids were little, she would go every weekend to the farmer's market and buy organic, fresh food. And then she'd take it home and she'd cook it up and she'd puree it and put it in the little jars and pouches for her kids because she wanted them to have the healthiest baby food that they could. And it occurred to her that this is a heck of a lot of work and a lot of time. And there's probably a lot of parents who don't have time to do that. And so she started a business making this baby food. And so, it's a critical problem for the families. It's not maybe perhaps like a national problem.
Yeah.
That she's solving, but it's a real problem that she's solving. And then, down to small problems, like we have a woman who creates jewelry that is related to like a holiday. So she has Christmas jewelry and Valentine's jewelry and St. Patrick's Day jewelry and all that.
Fun.
Right. So what problem is she solving? Well, somebody who likes to celebrate those holidays needs jewelry to go with their
theme decor,
their shamrock sweater, right?
Of course.
You can't not have shamrock earrings. Come on. And so it's a small problem, but once you dial into the problem that you solve, then the question is, well, who has that problem? And those are your customers. And so where are they, right? Like all these things, you can start a business on a whim, but soon or in advance if you can, plan to learn these things, to really think about what you're doing and what you want to do with your business. And then that just sets it up for success. We talk a lot about making sales also and the messaging you use. And
well, there's a lot of problems in Cincinnati that can be solved.
Yes, there's so many problems.
That means that there's lots of business that can still be done. Yes.
And also in Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky, there's a lot of incentives for, like Main Street businesses. So businesses that would be brick and mortar, fill a gap in a neighborhood. There's a lot of incentives from the city to help with that, both Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky. And there's a lot of networking groups and, support organizations, chambers and just networking groups in general that can really help because another thing we talk about a lot at Aviatra is we help women get the 3 essential types of connections that they need. So the first connection is connections to experts. So you're not just Googling like social media help near me, podcast help near me, right?
Exactly.
Like you already know Brian.
Yeah.
Like we can introduce you to Brian.
Exactly.
Now you know him. And so connections to experts is the first. The second one is connections to funding sources. So not usually like official funding, like loans and stuff, a little bit down the road. Usually it's more like customers, connections to customers. And then for funding source. And then the third is connections to other entrepreneurs so that you can help each other.
Love it. Okay. Man. Okay. So we're running out of time, but this has been so interesting to me. Thank you. This has been great. So we end every episode where you get to give your 30-second pitch right to your camera there. And please make sure to let people know how they can get in contact with you.
Sure.
So go for it. The stage is yours.
Thank you. Aviatra Accelerators empowers women to start, grow, and fund their businesses faster and with more confidence by offering classes, coaching, and community. You can find out more about us at aviatra.org.
Fantastic. That was so great. You put on your commercial voice there for a second. I love it. That was good.
My podcasting voice.
I love it. Seriously, Jill, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here today. And I think our listeners really should pay attention to the work that you guys are doing because I think it is really needed and really valuable. And
it's really empowering. I mean, like you said, there's a lot of opportunity out there right now. And so just set yourself up for success.
Yes, I love it. Well, thank you again. And we're excited and cheering on everything that Aviatra is doing.
Thank you so much, Brian.